Hello everyone and welcome to today's video, which is all things Skillshare. I'm so thrilled to have you here, and the timing's pretty perfect because I wanted to do a 3-month check-in with you on Skillshare for anyone who's interested in launching a course or making money through Skillshare. I know a lot of us can be quite dubious when it comes to making money online, so I really wanted to do this experiment for you guys to see whether or not this is actually a feasible platform of making money and creating courses, which you guys know is something that I love to do. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Megs, and every week I release tech tutorials helping you do digital better. If you want to find out a little bit more about my journey, the last 3.5 months or so on Skillshare and what I've learned, how much I've earned, and whether it's all worth it, then please keep on watching. Alright, so when I started my Skillshare course, I really didn't know what to expect. So that was in May of this year, which is a little over 3 months ago. And I watched a couple of YouTube videos trying to work out what is the kind of main pros of Skillshare. How does it compare to something like Udemy? I've done Teachable before, which I've shared quite a bit about on this channel. So I really just wanted to gauge what other people's experience was working with the platform. And on the whole, I'd say that the reviews that I watched were pretty positive, and I can confirm that my reviews are also going to be pretty positive today. So when I launched in May, I kind of thought to myself, well, what I hadn't liked about Teachable was the fact that there was no marketplace. So if you don't have a big following or a big email marketing list, it's obviously very difficult to launch a course without an audience. And so that's what really drew me to Udemy and Skillshare. But in my mind, it was kind of difficult to ascertain what the difference was between the two. But I think after 3 months or so on the platform, I can a little bit more confidently share my kind of opinion on that. So the main difference, and sorry if I look down, it's my notepad, is the creative nature of the courses on Skillshare. So they do tend to be quite creatively orientated. So my course was on social media marketing, and I will link that for you guys if you're interested in learning more about the basics of social media. But for me, because I had already released the course on Teachable, there wasn't a lot of umming and ahhing around the topic. I just wanted to re-release a course that I'd already done on Teachable, which for the purposes of this experiment is perfect because obviously the subject matter is exactly the same. So it was just interesting to see how it performed across both platforms. And out of interest, I actually released it on Udemy as well, but I'm not going to speak to that too much in this video just because I want this video to be mainly about Skillshare. If you guys are interested in Udemy, please comment down below and I will for sure make a separate video about that. So the first thing that I would recommend doing is watching some of the videos that are on Skillshare. So you can sign up for 2 months free using referral code. So I have linked one down below, but you can use any ones. And that'll give you a really good gauge of the kinds of content that's on the platform. And I would really suggest doing this first. So it was a kind of step that I skipped, and in hindsight I wish I had watched a bit more of the content on Skillshare before creating a course, because it does have quite a formulaic approach to courses, which is a good thing. I really like how the courses are structured, and I really like that people follow a similar structure, so it helps to kind of use that recipe in your favor. So the courses that I would really recommend if you do sign up for a 2-month trial, watching before you make your decision on whether you want to actually go ahead and create your own course, were 3 brilliant ones. The first one was Emma Gannon, Unlocking Your Potential, exercises to build your creative confidence. So this was amazing, and I think it's so broadly applicable to anyone, regardless of what your interests are. I loved Dan Mace's course about filmmaking for all, telling your story through video. And then I also absolutely love another YouTuber, Abdaal. He's got a productivity masterclass. So if you just want to get a feel for the platform, I will link all 3 of those courses down below, and you can kind of start to understand how the courses are structured and how people tend to shoot them. So in terms of how much it costs, so people pay $15 a month for this premium membership. And so they, once they've paid that amount, are able and free to watch whatever courses they like, which actually makes it really great for a course creator when you're starting out, because you're not having to sell and sell some more to get someone to convert into your course. So this person's already a paid subscriber, and so they're a lot more likely to click through if you have an interesting intro video without you having to actually convert them or do any kind of really hard work in that regard. So the courses are all pretty short, which I also think is great for beginner course creators because most of them are between 30 and 90 minutes. My course was exactly an hour. So it's kind of like a masterclass format as opposed to what you see on things like Udemy, which tend to be a lot longer. My Teachable course, to give you guys an indication, was 8 weeks long, and I see similar on Udemy. So I really like that it's like very digestible content, and I think it's seen a big boom over the lockdown period because people do just want to spend their time a bit more productively. Maybe they're like chopping veggies, or they just have an hour to spare between lectures or Zooms. It might just be that they're trying to upskill themselves in something quite specific versus committing and having to do a whole 8-week course. So I think it's very modern in its approach, that it's like very digestible. In terms of considerations, and I don't want to call them cons, I have listed down some things that I think is important to note. So the first one to kind of think about, and maybe one that wasn't super evident to me when I created my course, is that they are very against any kind of self-promotion. So you can mention who you are and what you do in the very introductory piece of your course and the very outro of your course, but you're not allowed to really reference what it is that you do in between. So it might seem obvious, but for me it's kind of difficult because you want to say like on my YouTube channel or, you know, on YouTube. But you don't want to continually be referencing like check out my link or I've got a great video on that or anything that references other bodies of your work. So it might be obvious to others. It wasn't really that obvious to me. The other thing that got me was that I had branding on my slides. So most people actually don't use slides on the Skillshare courses that I've been watching. They'll just talk like I am with you guys. But I thought it would be easier for me to structure 60 minutes and to make it super productive is actually using slides, which happen to have my digital logo in the bottom right-hand corner. Mainly because I was repurposing slides from the Teachable course, but they actually require you to block any of that kind of branding out, which is also great to know. In terms of customer service, I found their customer service so like interesting and like a little bit bizarre because I'd included like the logo, for example, in the bottom of the slides. The course was disapproved, but instead of it just immediately being disapproved and then you being able to implement the changes, it actually approved. It had enrollments, and then suddenly the course disappeared. So at that point, I'd released a promo video on my YouTube channel, and people were like, "Girl, like, where is your course?" So there's kind of little nuances like that that are a little bit odd. So then I was kind of going back and forth on their customer service helpline or email address. And then I started to read tickets or like in the forums about what people were saying about their customer service. And sure enough, it's all the same names. It's like Crystal from Skillshare. And you realize you're actually talking to a robot, which would be fine if the artificial intelligence was like brilliant, but it's not the greatest. So you're trying to actually flag an issue and they're like, thanks for letting us know that this has been resolved, or like some kind of response that's just very obvious that you're not speaking to a human. So I would just suggest limiting any of that kind of confusion up front. And then finally, another like final consideration when you're creating your course is they want you to create a project. So when you're structuring your 1-hour masterclass, for argument's sake, the first thing that you could and should think about is, what do I want people to be able to do at the end of this masterclass, and then structure your project around that. So after your intro module, you'd do another module, and then you'd say, in this course, we're going to teach you how to, and my one was do a social media audit. So it just helps you to kind of structure your course knowing that there's one major project that you're actually assigning to students, and then people are going to upload their attempts at your project, which I think is a really kind of great way of learning, because it's not really instructors talking at you, but actually inviting you to participate in this almost like challenge vibe. And then last thing is that Skillshare doesn't have any kind of marketplace insights, which Udemy does. So on Udemy, you can actually search for a course topic that you're interested in creating, and it'll give you an analysis of whether or not that's a good topic based on high competition or highly competitive keywords, and then like lower demand. So you're trying to find something that has high demand but isn't very competitive because there isn't that much content on it yet. So in terms of topic, you kind of do feel a little bit like you're on your own with Skillshare trying to work out what to do. Fortunately, in my case, I didn't think, what shall I do? I just wanted to re-release the same course. And in many ways, I was actually quite grateful for that because I think it could be something that trips up newbies for sure. So a little bit more about how exactly I did it. Because I already had the content in terms of the slide deck, I actually only set aside one day for shooting and one day for editing and uploading. And to be honest with you, I would say that even if you are a competent editor, I would suggest that maybe you set aside 3 days as opposed to the 2 that I set aside, because uploading of videos can be quite time consuming, and making sure that everything flows, that you watch everything over a couple times and maybe ask a friend to make sure that everything makes sense. So 3 days would definitely be the minimum that I would suggest that you set aside for creating your Skillshare course. In terms of if you don't have the content, I would say that maybe you'd need about 2 or 3 weeks to really get together your slides, structure it in a way that makes sense, and just kind of put your best foot forward. Because the one observation that you will make when you start watching your Skillshare videos is that the production quality is pretty high on Skillshare. I've taken 2 courses on Udemy, and to be honest, was not very impressed by the quality of the content. It was bad kind of screen recordings, and even, I mean, that's one thing, because obviously if you're teaching something digital, it's great to have a screen recording, but it was kind of just difficult to flow, and it wasn't done nicely. Like even the audio, for example, wouldn't be great. So I would say that if you're a little bit freaked out by that production quality, it might be easier to start on Udemy. But if you are confident and comfortable, when you watch the Skillshare, they actually have their own channel called Teach for Skillshare. You'll see that they just recommend using a webcam. So they don't really call it out, but it's kind of obvious when you start to watch on the platform. So getting into the juice, how much exactly have I earned from Skillshare? Well, good question. So to date, I've earned $477 which equates to about 8,000 Rand. So that was for May, June, and July. So I'm now 2 weeks later, so I can kind of forecast what I'm going to make for next month. But for the purposes of this 3-month look back, I'm just going to focus on those 3 months. So in May, which was the first month that I launched the course, I made $42. Then in June, I made $181. And then in July, I made $254. So the one thing that I'm unsure of is whether the demand was actually indicative of a normal period in time, because obviously it's very much coincides with lockdown in South Africa and internationally. But I will definitely keep you guys posted and let you know if it starts to drop significantly thereafter, in which case it may obviously have been affected by that. But to give you an indication, the 8,000 Rand over 3 months is about 2,600 Rand a month, which isn't bad going for someone who had no subscriber base on Skillshare. And then in terms of YouTube, you guys know that I was monetized recently, about a month or so ago, and I've made 1,100 Rand a month on YouTube. So it's interesting to note that I made double that on Skillshare in terms of a monthly basis. So that's a really good basis point. In terms of how the revenue model actually works on Skillshare, so according to their blog, they allocate 30% of their membership revenue into a royalty pool. And then if your course comprises, let's say, 1% of total minutes watched on the platform, you will be paid 1% of that revenue pool. So it is not to say that you get paid the same amount per minute or same amount per course or per hour. It's really about how many people were watching on the platform. But bear in mind, something that they were clearing up on their blog, which I found really interesting, was the fact that even though there were loads of people signing up for Skillshare over the lockdown period, they issue 2-month free trials, and I'm guessing a lot of people cancel. So the people that are still in their 2-month trial period are not counted as premium members, and therefore you won't earn any money from them. So something else to consider. Then another thing that's really cool about Skillshare is that you actually get $10 for everyone that signs up to Skillshare using your code. So you don't have to wait for the 2 months to pass for them to become actual premium members. It's just the fact that they've clicked on your link and signed up, which I think is also a really great way of making money. So I really hope that that covers the basics of creating a course on Skillshare and my experience over the last 3.5 months. If you have any comments, questions, please pop them down below. If you want to find out more about creating a course on Skillshare and you want to know something specific, I'd be super happy to help you with that. Otherwise, if you've just been watching amazing courses on Skillshare and you want to recommend to other people, I would also love to see your top picks too. So until next time, I cannot wait to see you guys again so that we can continue to do digital better. I can help you out. I can help you out. I can help you out. Here we go again. Time is up and I'm calling.